So, hi everyone, and welcome to the very first DevJam session. We are super excited to kick off this new series where we jam on everything from software development and machine learning, DevOps, DevSecOps, and maybe even throw in some hot takes along the way. So, before we dive in, go ahead and drop in the chat where are you tuning in from, uh, because we would love to see how global this session today. I'm Jonathan Abel, developer advocate here at JFrog, and I've been around the frog pond for quite a while. Started as an engineer, and now I get to hang out with you, developers, and talk about cool tech for a living, basically. But no worries, I'm not alone. With me, I had Danny Parizada, the one and only, a rockstar Solange at JFrog who's been solving developer problems before the most of us had our first CI/CD pipeline. Danny, over to you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Super excited to be here. Again, my name is Danny Parizada. I'm a senior solution engineer here at JFrog from the solution engineering team. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. So, Danny,
Yeah,
let,
go
let,
ahead.
let me, before we continue, let me ask you what Solange basically is. What do you do?
That's a good question. So basically, because JFrog's product is very technical, we want to make sure that we actually help customers resolve their challenges, reach their goals, whether it's implementations, which are very complex, whether it's cloud migration, compliance reasons, security objectives, DevOps. We have everything into one platform, and it can be super hard to get started with. And this is why I meet with customers, listen to their challenges, listen to what they want to achieve, compare it with other successful implementations that we did in the past. And from there, we design an architecture, we design a plan, implementation, and support them until they get to where they want to be.
Yeah, cool. So I see. So it's basically like every customer has its own needs, and you kind of tailoring the solution for these customers, right?
Yes, I learned engineering, but you can call me the tailor man too.
Yeah, definitely.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
DevRel. I've been hearing a lot of developer experience goals, a lot of my customers at least talking about goals or KPIs they would like to reach with developer experience. Can you share a bit of what a DevRel does?
Well, yeah, sure. So as said before, I started as an engineer here at JFrog, but over time I became kind of advocating for our product, which eventually caused by me becoming a DevRel. So DevRel in big picture is kind of bridging the gap between what we do and how our customers can use it, and how anyone who want to start with our product can start easily and understand the product, because as you said, it's a very technical product and sometimes it's not that clear how you onboarding this product. So it's not only about onboarding, but it's also about um, talking about the new stuff that we bring into the table, all the bells and whistles that we bring. And in general, it's about being a technical enthusiast and talk about cool stuff that's happening now in the technology domain.
Okay. From my discussions with customers, I know that developers love open source. They use it all the time, and I think this is one of our topics for today. Just before, would we like to send out a poll to get to know the? Oh, perfect. We're ready to. Cool. So, guys, feel free to answer the poll. And Yontan, yes, maybe we can start by discussing why is open source so popular today.
Yeah, sure. So, we all hear about open source. Those who developing probably using open source, and not only just using, but it's above 90% of their project, because open source save developers a ton of time. Instead of developing all these fancy schmancy charts and colors and all this beautiful stuff and developing it from scratch, you can just get an open source package that someone else built, and just read the documentation about how to use this package and just implement it within your application. So now, after I, for example, implemented this open source chart library, I now have this shiny chart on my application, and all I did is just grabbing this open source package, install it, and give it the exact parameters it needs, and I'm ready to go. And this is the story about open source. It's collaborative, it's accelerating development. Everyone can contribute to an open source project, and it makes it very easy to get on board with an open source package and also contribute. So for example, if I need something specific for my needs, I will create a pull request and I will ask the maintainer of this package, hey, can you take my code and put it inside, because it will help me achieve some specific stuff that I need. So it's like an community open world of software. This is how I see it.
Okay. I like it. It's an idea of community, of helping each other, of really assisting, building on something that already exists. And eventually, these are the targets of the customers I'm talking to. They want to release faster. They're talking about time to market. They're talking about better developer experience. And this kind of aligns with that. Now, I see that the poll is closed, and we have a lot of DevOps, software engineer, IT operations, security. And are exactly the people that are touching those open source software on a daily basis and really getting excited by them. But
Right.
when something becomes so popular, guess who else noticed this rise?
Right, of course. So bad actors probably will notice this raising in the demand of open source packages, and it actually get these open source packages to be a target for those bad actors, because instead of trying to breach like a specific infrastructure of an organization, it's much easier to just tackle or tamper with an open source project and get a backdoor by just injecting something malicious into these open source packages. And that's why we must and we have to be very cautious with these open source packages.
Right. So you said open source can be 90% of the workload today, and that the biggest companies, biggest enterprises are using open source to leverage the benefits from them. And then suddenly, in the last few years, open source software has been the top attack surface, right? That's the vector that they're going for. CVEs are exploding. Attacks are moving fast. Like from a moment that a CVE is disclosed, within 3 days, already we can start seeing the initial attempts, at least. And then in 2024, malicious packages that bear malicious code that is brought in by a developer, probably unintentional, they've been also exploding. We're talking about 10,000 plus malicious packages in popular packages like NPM, IPI, these kind of things.
Yeah, right. And it's I always love to say, and I'm not trying to frighten you, but we don't know what we don't know. And we heard about stories like the solar winds, like the 0-day vulnerability with log4j, with the XZ library that accidentally found by someone who is even not a security person. He just noticed that his connection is 200 milliseconds slower now, and he started to dig in just because he was curious enough to look for this cause of this slowness. And what I'm trying to say is that even while we are speaking, bad actors is working and trying to bridge these open source packages. And again, I'll back to what I said at the beginning. We don't know what we don't know, and that's why we cannot allow being, complacent, and we have to be proactive to find these bridges and be able to act fast when we find something.
Gotcha. So I think not knowing what we don't know means that a lot of times we bring in a package, and it can bring in a lot of transitive package, right? Indirect packages. We can maybe research the first package that we bring in, but all the other ones, it will be terribly difficult. Now, bringing in packages, we want to make sure that this process, because of its sensitivity and criticality, we want it to be well done, right? Very precise and accurate, but then also fast and automated. And I think that not only organizations understand the risks there, but also governments like the European Union. We've been starting to see a lot of requests coming in, at least from my customers, talking to JFrog about how do we comply with these new regulations. Regulations like the CRA, like DORA for financial institutes, like NIS2, and these are only Europe, right? I see here in the chat a lot of people from different locations. I see Venezuela, I see Sydney. I assume that they have their own regulations too, but they're all talking about protecting from the entrance of open source software that can be malicious.
That's right, because it's a big deal, and we are not speaking about esoteric offices like governmental offices. We're talking about large and main offices that deal with this regulation. By the way, with the solar winds and sunburst issue, it ended up with a call between Putin and Biden speaking about this specific SolarWinds issue because eventually it can get to a critical infrastructure that will affect the life of millions around the world. So it's not a game; it's a real thing and it's a real threat that we need to be very cautious with and put all our effort to prevent this because it can eventually harm your customers, harm your organization, and it sounds big, but it can harm the population and the whole humanity. We all use software everywhere.
Yeah, I assume the people in the room more care for the security of their job and the security of the application that they're making. But of course, yes, NIS2 is already out. It's been out since October 24. DORA out since January 25, and CRA is due to start at 27. We want to make sure that we adhere, but it's not just adhering with the compliance. I mean, these regulations talk about an inventory of all your digital assets. They're talking about understanding the risks that you're bringing in to list down all the packages. So anyway, you're going to have this in your organization. Question is how you leverage it, how you make sure that you prosper and really thrive with the use of this tool. So some customers already do understand what they're bringing in, right? It can be a manual process. They can use a firewall. Developers that are requesting something, and then security engineer comes, your overviews. So we want to shoot another quick poll. The polls are going really good now to understand a bit how are you encountering the challenge of understanding what you're bringing in. And as I said before, this has to be very delicate. If it's slow, it can be frustrating. It can cause a lot of friction
Right.
with developers who just want to develop fast, right? This is something that comes out from the field, Jonathan.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, let me put the hat of the developer that I had previously before I became a DevRel, and I think that you don't want. I mean, we developers we don't like to deal much with security. We just want to develop first, to develop fast, to grab the right package, and I don't want nothing to stop me, and then I should go and find out who can release my handcuff and let me. Continue my work. And yeah, because sometimes security demands a friction and it's not that trivial to understand how you take off this blockage that blocking you from continuing. And yeah, so I think that one of the most harder part is that I want to fail fast and I want to fix it fast so I can continue with my job and not finding an issue when my application is already on production.
Yes, failing is such a scary word, but failing will happen anyway in the software supply chain. If it's in the shift left realm, right? I understand that I cannot use this package from the moment I requested it. I can resolve the issue in a matter of seconds, minutes. But if it's later on in the process after a CI/CD when it's running in production, this can actually take days, weeks, even.
Yeah, right. So especially in a distribution microservice application where you have different versions of your application deployed to different regions, and then you need to understand what deployed where and do the rollback in case of some if you introduce this new package to some vulnerability. So you need to act fast, whether it's, by the way, also having an SBOM to track down a specific package and understand what application that you have on your organization containing this rodent tomato, and be able to act fast. And again, we said fail fast, and fail it's positive in this case, because failing fast means that I will be able to do it much faster, fix the problem while I'm still developing in the flow. And in terms of time, it will be much faster, and also in terms of costs. So it's very important to establish an infrastructure that will allow you to fail fast, but also fix this failure fast and keep going with your development. And that's why it's very important to shift left. I mean, I'm not saying it just as a buzzword, but you do need to shift left your quality gates so you will be able to fail fast and fix that fast.
So, sounds like you're building towards something here, Jonathan. But I want to stop you here for a second and just to see the results of the poll that we sent. We can see that the majority, which are 37%, use scanners, but after the build, which is exactly what we said. This is scanning, which is very important. We don't want to displace that, but we do believe that shifting left can give a lot of value, and it's mandated by a lot of regulations. By the way, one large European bank approached me and said, "Hey, we have this DORA regulation in hand. We saw JFrog and the capabilities that you can provide, and this is what we're going to talk about today, about the way to automate it." So I even see a lot of people that are doing it manually. 17% have automated policies. And then we're talking about where can it actually help you to escalate and to bring things faster. So a lot of customers approached us even before we thought of this idea, even before the regulations came out with these demands. And our product managers listened. And Jonathan, do you want to kind of take it from here?
Yeah. So again, we talked about fixing and scanning, and again, it's important to have these, as we said, these kind of scanners and policies that you are using, and as you said in the poll, and take these policies again to the most left side and have kind of tools that will allow you to block these even before it get into your organization. Now, I'm not here to do a product pitching, but I'm just saying that I'll take Artifactory as, for example, for your single source of truth. You want to make sure that even although it's your single source of truth, you don't want to let malicious or some packages that violate your organization policy to even get into your packages warehouse, which is Artifactory. And here, Danny, you can, I think we can introduce the package catalog. You can say a few words
Perfect.
about it.
Yes. So what you're seeing on the screen is the JFrog platform, and the two new capabilities that correlate exactly to what we've been talking so far are package catalog and curation. Package catalog, you can think about as like the LinkedIn of all the packages, right? I want to understand a package, I want to get to know it, I can research it. One of the most kind of insurance policies thing that you can do with it is, of course, if a developer wants to bring in a package, and let's say this package is Django, which is a very famous, familiar PyPI package, but by mistake he has a double O, he fell a victim to a typo squatting attack. This happens quite often. But if I have an option to research it, to understand, and to even understand if this package can be brought in, I have an advantage. So we were talking about the shift left. This even happens before bringing in the packages. So as another example, if I'm researching a package like this extreme package, I can see that there are no vulnerabilities on this package, but 19 transitive vulnerabilities that I'm bringing in from indirect packages. So you can see here the list of the dependencies that this specific package is bringing in. Some of them have vulnerabilities. Some of them have more indirect dependency. This tree is never ending, and it's very difficult to monitor and to understand exactly. But if I have this tag telling me that this is approved for download, well, I don't need to ask any questions because everything will be brought in.
Right. And Danny, it's funny because even those dependencies are eventually packages, that also these packages are built on top of 90% of others open source packages. So we get kind of a recursive list of packages that we need to make sure that we don't have any malicious dependency coming in with these innocent packages that you use, right?
Yeah, and then the data itself can be only good if someone is maintaining it, if it's being brought from trusted resources. So I want to show you another example of this EJS package. And all the data from like what we're using with this product is taken from private resources, public resources, but then are also a proprietary team. we have a team of a couple dozens of engineers who are security researchers. On a daily basis, they go and they investigate new weaknesses. They understand what actually triggers them, and they're approved CNAs. That means that they can actually write their own CVEs, report back to NVD. And just as an example, you can see here that NVD gave this CVE from EJS on the latest version a critical severity rating, but JFrog actually gave it a low severity. And anytime a developer or a security engineer wants to understand and research, he has all the explanation from our research team with the details of when it's actually applicable and when it's not, so they can take a decision that is based out of data.
Right, and
Jonathan, how do you
I
see?
just want
Yeah.
to add. Sorry, Danny. I just want to add about the CNA. The CNA that JFrog is a CNA for the community. So only during 2024, we disclosed 46 new CVE to the community. Means that all other scanners out there, open source scanners, and everyone who offer security uses JFrog information to protect their customers as well. So it's part of JFrog responsibility for the community. Of course, we have all our enriched data within our product, but as a CNA, it's part of JFrog contribution to the community, and that's important to mention.
Right. Very powerful tool for developers. Even if they don't have access to the UI, they can GraphQL it, they can curl the information. It's pretty quick. How do you see this as kind of a friction reducer for developers?
So I think that this you said the LinkedIn for packages. I like to see the Google or the I don't know, the Wikipedia of packages, because it make me a developer make a better decision when I want to check and pick some specific package for my project. And I also can do, for example, a comparison between two different packages, or even the same package with a different version, to see the differences and make a prudent decision of which package I should use and which I shouldn't. And it's great because the more you know about the packages you use, the less work and fixes you need to do afterwards. And as said, you make a wiser decision. Additionally, we also this catalog equip you with the EPSS score, which kind of telling you the exploitable probability of this package in case it has a vulnerability. So it's also it's another kind of noise reducer. So for example, if you know that something is not breachable and it's not have an high EPSS rank, so I mean you should take care of it, but you can reduce the flames and make your own triage and prioritization. And again, it's all about the information and data. Another part that is very important for open source packages is this OpenSSF score. So it's kind of an community ranking system of giving an open source packages a score. So we also include this OpenSSF score within your catalog. So you know that, for example, here what Danny shows, that the license it has an I score in terms of license and in terms of binary artifacts. But you can see, for example, that this specific package doesn't do a SAST scanning and all that other stuff that mentioned there. So we give you all the information in hand and consolidated in the platform, so you have it in hand and you can make a better decision and then choose the right package for you.
Okay, so of course not expected to, as a developer, right, to go in and understand what I'm bringing in or not. But
Right.
we actually want to create a policy or several of policies that will create a security posture that everything that I allow will come in. If
Right.
it's a critical application that is running in a customer site or customer facing, maybe I'm not allowed to use open source software which doesn't have the adequate license, like GPL licenses. Maybe I want to avoid some certain CVEs for external applications, but the internal ones, it's fine to have. So a lot of kind of decisions that I need to make, I need something that will create this posture that I trust in, that is automated, that is fast, that it doesn't fail too often, and allows my developers to work freely. But then also to have this granularity with different types of applications.
Yeah. Right. So you just showed the curation, which is kind of, I like to see it as the firewall of your packages, or the doorman at the interest of your club, that basically, according to your organization policies, and because it's as all the data from catalog that you just showed, it's able to block specific packages according to, again, your policies, and not let them in into your club, which I say it's Artifactory, but not let it get it in into your into the party, and by that avoiding these malicious or violated packages that you don't want in your organization. And it's not only that, because, by the way, in the catalog, and we didn't show it, but we have an option to add a label. And by using, for example, try to imagine that we mark a package with the label of aliens, and we don't want a package that written by aliens get into our organization. So we can, for example, label a package, whether it's a specific version, or all versions, or all future version from a specific package version. We have all this flexibility, and we can, by that, creating a policy that blocking all packages that has a label of alien, and we are now safe and sound, and we are sure that nothing will get into our organization if it's labeled with alien, for example.
Yeah, okay. And then we want to make sure that we really build something that is resonating with what we want to achieve. I think the first one is kind of straightforward. Malicious packages, once I know that this is done, all the typo squatting attacks, all the attacks over,
Right.
naming conventions, these kind of things were kind of protected.
I'm clear.
After that, can go ahead and set something like a CVE. If a CVE is 9 and above, but there's a fixed version available, maybe this kind of sounds good. Developer, please update this to the later version that doesn't hold this vulnerability. We will resolve a lot of issues later on. But then what about stuff that are not CVE related or security related, like packages, licenses that we just spoke about? And then also package version is aged or immature, Jonathan?
Yeah, so we can set, for example, a policy where we package that is not maintained. Maybe it's aged. Not no one maintained it for the last, I don't know, 5 years. I don't want this kind of package to be used in my organization, because it might expose me to some, not updated dependencies, and might expose me to some CVEs. So I'm not sure that I want to allow these in my organization, or at least I want to verify it before I let it into my organization. And same for an immature. So, sometimes I want others to try it before I try it. So if there will be an explosion, it will not happen in my organization. So let's let others try first. And if it's packaged, let's say that it's immature and it's less than 15 days, I don't want this to get into my organization, and I want to block it.
Exactly. Let the others enjoy all the new bugs.
Yeah, right.
Then after we do that, we do want to make sure that there's an option for developers to actually request something to be waived, right? We don't want developers knocking on the security team's door saying, "Hey, I was blocked. I don't know why. Please approve this." This has to be done in a way that logs everything, that can enable fast and quick resolutions of issues. So after we set up a policy structure, of course, we want to know about the audits. And this is amazing for regulators, for auditors. Everything that was being brought in and was blocked, everything that was being brought in and was approved. And again, this sits on the gate. This
Right.
scans and understands and blocks everything before it was even introduced into the organization or to the developer.
Yeah, that's right. It intercept all the packages request that was done by the organization developers. And I think that, it's not like it's good for both sides, for the security person who sits and want to defend the organization from these kind of malicious packages, but also it helps the developer that might accidentally use something he shouldn't, and it will be approached by the security and say, hey, look, this specific package is not good for our organization. Let's try and find something else, before it's too late and it's on production, like said before.
Okay. Ready to see a demo?
I'm all ready. Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So what I'm showing here is just a basic terminal. I'm an NPM, a front-end developer, and I have this project called Frog Demo Main 2. And you can see that this is a regular project. I have a few dependencies in my package JSON. And what I'm going to do now is an npm install. Now, just to give you a little hint, this would fail. So you can see already a 4 or 3, a bad experience for a developer. I did get some npm notice that curation blocked it due to some issues. In some technologies, we can do that with a notice. Some technologies will not allow JFrog to do that.
And that's
still,
great
I
because
will have...
I'm not clueless at this point as a developer. When developer get this kind of errors, it's like what should I do? And it's great to have this message, and okay, I understand why I got blocked.
Yeah. So okay. Okay. So let's say, for example, just clear the screen, and I'll try this again. The gods of demo, right?
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, I don't know what's going on with my violations. I don't know what exactly I violated, right? We talked about the fact that it can be a license issue, it can be a CVE issue, and maybe it's something that I do want to request a waiver. For example, there's no fixed version on the latest version, or it's an internal, but I have some reasoning that I want to do. This is actually where we could potentially ask for a waiver as a developer. And Jonathan, I would like to ask you at the end of the demo how powerful this is and how this can actually help developers. I know from the security team that they don't have time to look at these packages and things as requests one after the other. So you can see here that the printout is actually what packages I brought in that are violating the policies that the organization created. So EJS 316 is violating this policy, and there are some recommendations. For example, upgrade to 317. But then I can see that there's a transitive dependency that was also brought in that is also violating that I need to upgrade. So the next question is, do you want to request a waiver for any of the listed packages? So I'll say yes. Which one? You can see they're dotted by lines. So I want or all or the first one. What's the reason? So we don't let anyone do it without any reason. This is for DevJam webinar and submit. How easy was that?
Okay, so this is amazing because every developer will relate to this story of getting stuck by security policies, and then he need to go over Slack and understand who is the right person to get him free from this blockade. And it's great because it keeps me in the flow. I know that at that point I created a waiver request, and always when I'm thinking about waiver is like kind of card with a lanyard on the neck of this package saying, hey, I'm good, let me in. And so it's amazing that I'm having this option. And just to recap, you did it by just using the CLI of JF Curation Audit, or CA in short, right?
Right. We do equip the platform with a CLI, which is basically just a wrapper of the API. Very easy to integrate with. I highly recommend it to developer who wants to really quickly scan, understand what's going on, compare things. But for this use case with the CLI, I think it's really easy to do because it keeps the developer focused. But if there's a need to do it with a webhook, through email or through Slack.
But Danny, let's get back to reality. What happens if we are like 20 developers in my team and everyone, we're working remotely and everyone got this block and opening this waiver? Wouldn't it create a spam around the environment?
That's a perfect question. And we did think about it. So first of all, you can see that the audit log already blocked the packages that I tried to bring in, and it lists it under my name. And when I request a waiver, my name again is in the requester. So let's say I requested, Jonathan requested, Tom requested, all the organizations that requested, I'll see the same requesters here, and I'll see the list and the dates that they requested with their description. And then I can quickly approve or reject it.
So for me as a security person, for me as a security person, it will be much easier to triage and make the prioritization by understanding, what's blocking the most number of developers. So I will treat it first, right?
Bingo. Now you were talking about 20 developers. What about 2,000 developers?
Right,
Then I
right.
want to assign certain waivers to me if I'm leading this team and I'm the security engineer for that specific team,
All
but
right.
other requests will go to other team members, right? So we can support large enterprises with very complex use cases.
That's great.
Amazing.
Okay. So, Danny, we saw some amazing stuff. We talked about the threats and the risk by using an open source packages and how we can defend ourselves. About if we get some malicious packages or packages that violates our policy. So we have the tools in place to defend our organization from these. Kind of different packages. So we talked about the why, the what, and even what if, right? Um, any final thoughts, Danny? Some things that you want
Yeah.
to say?
So first of all, feel free to our audience if you want to drop a question in the chat. I see already some questions. We'll refer to them in a moment. Feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll just say a few questions that I'm getting from my customers when I present this. So first question is usually, will curation slow developers down because of all the blocks? Jonathan, you want to take it?
Well, so we kind of talked about it, but I don't think it will slow down. It will definitely block the developer at the right point where it should be blocked. Otherwise, the next time it will be blocked, it's when we will try to build a package and it will be blocked by the CI itself. So, for example, if a developer is not fetching its dependencies via the proxy of the JFrog Artifactory, so we will not be enforced by these policies, but then it will fail later. So imagine these developers at the end of the day going home happy and smiling, and then getting a phone call from his colleague, hey, the bill just broke. We need to understand why. We get a 403. So you prefer to fail fast and be able to act and resolve this issue than being surprised of why do I getting blocked at an early stage
Mm-hmm.
and get this
Yeah, shifting left. Shift happens, as we say.
shift definitely happen. Yeah, right. That's nice.
So this is another thing that we noticed at JFrog, and we thought about it. If a developer calls a range of packages, let's see if it's a latest or just a minor, we can also bump down the version automatically because the developer doesn't really care what it brings in, but it just wants it to be compliant to go through. So reduce the number of actual blocks.
Right.
Yeah. Another question that comes up a lot is, I have already scanners. We saw in the results, we have scanners later after the CI/CD. Why do I need this scanner to be brought in earlier?
So again, we go back, right, Danny, to the shift left approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is exactly where we want to make sure that the application is being scanned throughout the software supply chain. Risks like bringing in malicious packages and running them in the IDE can create ransomware, can lock files, can upload my sensitive data to the cloud. Scanners that after the CI/CD will not be very helpful here if I'm already introducing a malicious package in my organization. So this needs to be a DevSecOps approach, which means that in all the DevOps infinity loop, we embed and incorporate security, and better yet, have it all integrated in the same system so the same policies will apply throughout the software supply chain. We have another question in the chat. Package catalog is going to search the web. Jonathan.
So package catalog is enriched by data, as Danny said, by our research team. We have scanners that continuously scans all open source and all these public registries from Docker Hub, NPM, PyPI, NuGet, etc. And we continually scanning and scraping these different hubs to have the most fresh data. So I can say that, let's say package will be released right now, it will be in our catalog within 2 hours. You will have it there. So we scan all these kind of open source packages. And for example, if it's a very famous story about the leaked admin PyPy token that was found by one of our scanners. So as part of using our own champagne, we train our tools on these public registries with partnership with Docker. We scan all the Docker images, and we found an admin token to the PyPI organization. Of course, we disclosed it immediately, and they revoked this token within 6 minutes. So understand how critical that was. And yeah, as going back to the question, we continuously scanning all these open source hub. Yeah.
Yeah, the researcher's blog is amazing. It's online. You can find it by researchjfrog.com. Has the PyPI token identification that was not detectable in code, but only detectable as a binary. So it comes to show that you do need scanners throughout the software supply chain. The work that we did with Hugging Face for AI ML models,
Right.
Dockers that we identified lots of vulnerabilities there. A great resource to understand a bit more about the risks that are out there. Another question that I can see in the chat is which version of JFrog and X-Ray is needed to get package catalog? Jonathan?
Yeah, so as far as I know, package catalog and curation coming together within the same offer, it's kind of an addition to an existing X-ray, right? It's I'm not that sure about the terms of, because I'm not a salesperson, and it's great. I have no idea about this kind of stuff, but what
Maybe I
I
can
do
take it
know is
then,
that it's
Jonathan.
kind of a patch of X-ray, right?
So basically, it's all a matter of what you want to use. We have the capabilities to provide an end-to-end security throughout the software supply chain, a full SDLC secure chain, but you need to choose what you want to add. So if you need package catalog and curation, they come as a bundle. Reach out, and we'll help you get this tested or sorted. Last question that I see here on the chat is, isn't open source inherently insecure because anyone can inject code into open source development?
So so it's not that precise, because eventually these open source are managed by maintainers. It's not that I can go and immediately inject my code into some popular open source library. Eventually it will need to go through a process called pull request, and it will be reviewed by maintainer. By the way, there are some circumstances where I will want to use only packages that has more than one reviewer or maintainers, and I can put these kind of rules to make sure that I get these kind of packages which are more secure and being maintained. So no, it's not that everyone can go and put in his code inside, but he will need to go through a process. But again, there are cases, for example, if we take the XZ library story, a contributor, a person, like me and you, contribute during 1 or 2 years to a specific package, this XZ library, which is very famous one, and gain the trust of the maintainer, which eventually this maintainer let a maintainer privilege to this Giatan, that was his username. He gave him these privileges, and then it was a malicious actor that plant a backdoor in this popular library. And again, as said before, it was accidentally caught by someone who was curious enough to see what was changed. But unless you are a maintainer, and again, you need to trust maintainer. There are other different stories about event stream and open source packages where the maintainer, he suddenly became a bad actor, and it can happen. And you need to protect yourself from this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and this is why you need a scanner that keeps on updating and keep on scanning, because things can change even while you're working on these packages. I actually found more questions because, surprise, surprise, we have the QA part. So the first one I can see is by Abdullah. Can you add CC options? Not sure I understand what you mean. So if you can elaborate, that would be great. Then we have Peter asking, how could the curation policy block rule or differentiate between the usage of a package? For example, you never ever want a vulnerable package to end up in your end product, but what about the usage of a simple supporting script? So I think this actually relates to the granularity of what we talked before. Some end goals would be to run something a bit less secure for internal purposes. For example, how our team brings in insecure packages to actually scan them and interact with them, whereas end products, which we provide to the customer, like JFrog, will not be included in that. We do have the structure of a repository that we allow based on permissions. So we didn't show the whole way to create policies, but we can implement policies based on certain repositories that get to certain locations. So production-ready environments will be more secure, more strict, while internal purposes, only certain developers have permissions to go there, and they don't have permissions to go to the production side, will reside with that, and then you can be more lenient there, have more thin scanners there. Here's one for you, Jonathan. What's the unique selling point of JFrog Curation over competing products from other vendors? Another question from Peter.
Okay, that's a great question. So first of all, I think that our nice
one platform, yeah,
one platform, exactly. So again, first of all, it's native. It's as Artifactory is your single source of truth and your binary manager. We have this curation integrated with Artifactory, which give you a native solution for governing what's coming in and what's not. It's proactive. You can do all these different action that Danny just showed before, giving you this waiver option to keep your developers in the flow. And again, it's all the open source consumption policy that you put into your Artifactory and into your X-ray and security will be applied for this curation. So we give you a different level of security. You might, by the way, have this curation policy, and something which is not malicious at first will be able to get in. But then we have, once it get in, you still have these policies of blocking malicious packages, and you have X-ray. And if I said the doorman before, and now I say X-ray is your SCA, your software component analysis, and it scans. It's like a camera, a surveillance camera inside the club, keep and continuously scanning your packages inside the club. So if something become malicious, we will be able to get it out from the club, so you know that you are safe. So it's all about one platform that consolidates all the solution, from securing your open source packages to proxying and storing your open source packages. You don't need to juggle between different tabs to put the different policies. It's all in one place. And this is, I think, that this consolidation is the power of being able to govern in an effective way, which eventually will make your organization much safer and happier. So I think that being a consolidated solution it's all about that.
Yeah, that sounds like a club I'd pay a visit to.
Yeah, it's a nice club. Just imagine many packages dancing in this club,
Yeah, this is actually good, because the next question actually refers to that. So Ivan is asking security operations and research related questions. Are there plans to make the changes to the vulnerability DB visible in some way? For example, if a vulnerability severity is reduced or even removed from the vulnerability DB. At the end of the day, we want something that will work without our intervention, or at least, being very automated and bringing up the issues as they occur. We don't want to go vulnerability by vulnerability. So curation will just make sure that the risk, once brought in, is dealt with. But if something changes throughout, you don't want to go and keep on checking. And this is where you talked about X-ray, which continues the unified policy and looks at the binaries as they change. And if something breaks your policies now, after it was introduced, now it will create a violation. What is a violation? It's something that broke the policy or violated the policy that you created, and it gets to you, whether by Slack, by email, by Jira ticket, by anything. But you will know exactly if there's an issue that you need to attend, and about all the implementations and where they are, because all the context is in one location. So single platform, single source of truth, very easy to maintain for security and DevOps operations. Last question, ready for it, Jonathan? Yeah. Fabian is asking, why would I allow less secure policies for internal tools? This violates zero trust. A lot of attackers are inside jobs.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that again, it depends of your organization. It depends if your organization has its own secure lab when it wants to try, even take a vulnerable package and try something with this vulnerable package to see if you were affected or not. I mean, it's all depends, but I definitely agree that you first of all need to close all the ports like firewall, and then allow package by package to get into your organization. And 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 yeah, there is no like a main reason to allow a less secure policies, but again, it's a trade-off between developer and security. You don't want to, even blocking everything, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because eventually it will take a lot of time to start and curate every single package. We talk about thousands and sometimes millions of packages that you want to be able to automate this process. So you will
Right.
you can choose whether you want to do a permissive approach or more strict approach. It's all about your decision and what the organization policy and approaches are. So it's basically there. It's You have the full flexibility to set whatever you like.
Yeah, and I'll say just that at the end of the day, it's a matter of prioritization and understanding what you're bringing in. So, for example, we talked about less secure applications, like some with CVEs, but some CVEs, if they're low, medium, or you know how to tackle and not to allow the weakness to be brought in. For example, with capabilities that we'll talk about in next sessions, like contextual analysis, you can take smarter decisions there. But also policies that we talked about that are not related to security, but more for operation. So, for example, the best practice for DevOps, as we saw with a research team, is to wait at least 14 days until you use a package that was released recently. So maybe in internal purposes, you can use them more, or open source licenses that you're just not allowed to use in production. And this is what we meant with granularity of less secure policies for internal purposes.
Yeah.
Jonathan, just before we conclude, we do want to shoot the last poll, right? That will be like a certain call for action if you want to learn more about the JFrog platform. Jonathan, any takeaways from what we discussed here today?
Well, we discussed a lot about the open sources set and all the tools and the approaches that we should use. So whether you use JFrog tools or the other tools, doesn't matter. You must secure your software supply chain from open source packages at the very early stage of your development process. As Danny said about contextual analysis, and I will not make a spoiler for the next episode, but contextual analysis is when things are getting in, and it's these 5% that matter, that really can get you not you're not ready, and get you get into your application and do some bad stuff. So this is about contextual analysis. You can go and read about it, but we will do an episode about contextual analysis for sure, so no worries. And again, yeah, I think that it's very important to establish this infrastructure for defending your organization from open source packages that might look good and very natural using them, but they can get you into bad situation where someone will put in a backdoor or any malicious activity in these packages. So you need to be ready. You need to make everything so you will be prepared and be able to be a proactive and make this solution right away.
Right. So we talked about the why, we talked about the what. It's just a matter of when, and whenever you're ready, we're here to support you. Talk about other organizations that succeeded with that, talking about how to implement it in your specific use cases. We'd love to hear you. Love to meet you again for another Dev Jam.
Yeah, it was great, Danny.
Thank you
Right.
for having
Okay.
me, Jonathan.
Yeah. So thank you for hanging us with us. If you want to see how this works in your own environment, feel free to connect after this session. Add Danny Perizada, the one and only, to the LinkedIn. Add me, or just contact our JFrog representative. Thank you very much for having us. This is Jonathan. This is Danny. Peace out.
Thanks for dropping by, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.